Disclaimer.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily the views of Tash, Becky, or Be Your Best You podcast.
Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hey guys, can we ask you a favour? Can we ask, if you haven't already, please make sure that you're following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you can get updated with all the latest episodes every week when they come out. You never know, it might just be the thing that you need to hear at that time. Also, don't forget you can watch us on YouTube, so make sure you head over there and subscribe to us there.
And share with all your friends.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash.
I'm Becky, the guest edition, and today we're speaking to Claire Hurst.
Claire is a menopause expert and she comes at it from a very holistic point of view. Effectively, what she's trying to do is show women that there are other ways of managing the menopause aside from using HRT, and she equips women with a really powerful toolkit to help them work through the menopause in a way that is suited to you, because we're all different. We have such an incredibly informative, and that's the dog.
Say hi, Ollie.
Ollie dog. I was on a roll there. Naughty, naughty. Sit down then while we finish. As we're saying, we have an incredibly informative conversation with Claire. She is going to give you so many takeaways that you can put into action right now, which are really simple. They're not overwhelming, and you will start seeing results within 48 hours, she said. Anyway, enjoy this conversation with Claire. It was so much fun and we hope you enjoy. So does Ollie. You monkey. And today we have on the show Claire. Claire, welcome. So lovely to have you.
Hi, Claire.
Well, hi, ladies. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to talk to you, Claire. So before we dig in to all your wisdom, could you just tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do in the world right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Claire Hurst and I am a menopause expert, and I come at it from a really holistic approach. So I'm a mycologist, so that means that I'm a gut health expert. I've got qualifications in supplements, in nutrition, in exercise, but actually I'm also a functional medicine coach. So I just help women find a toolkit that helps them rebalance their menopause. So I don't tell them what to do, I present them with a full range of science-backed tips. And this is where it's really important. There's a lot of information out there that makes women so confused, so that women can then choose the toolkit that works for them and their life. And it's different for everybody, but I've been doing it now for 3 years and it's become a really lovely business and community. So that's how I work. And last year I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so now I navigate the medical menopause, which is brutal. And so quite a lot of my patients, probably about 30% of my patients now, are breast cancer patients who I support through treatment and then afterwards as well. Obviously for them, HRT is often not an option. So that's where that sort of idea of a holistic approach is really powerful.
Amazing. Oh, you are definitely speaking our language, because we are all about I love that, the empowerment. There's so much, like you said, there's so much information about out there for us now in all kinds of areas, and it becomes very overwhelming. It can be very fear based and fear driven a lot of the time, can't it? And that I really don't like that. But what I also don't like is people pushing their views on other people and saying that that is like the only way, because like you said, like all humans are, we're all different and different things work differently for us. And I think it's really important to kind of empower people to understand that, like to trust their own guts, to
Yeah.
trust their instinct and do what feels right to them. Because if it's when we try and do these things from a place of because somebody's told us to or because we think we have to, from a mindset point of view, which is where, you know, the arena that I work in, you're fighting a losing battle. Because if it doesn't resonate with you, you don't want to do it, you don't have that drive to do it, it's difficult, isn't it?
I also think that women are expected that they take some one thing and it's going to fix it, and that they're constantly feeling they're failing in their menopause because they've been told either that HRT is going to magically fix it, or this supplement that they've seen that's promised to change their life, or this diet. And I think that's the problem. I think there's some incredible experts out there, from fasting to nutrition to supplements. I think they are, but the problem with them all is they're in their lane.
Right.
And we all know what we can do with evidence. They've all got the evidence behind them to show that it will work for some women, but the majority of women don't fit in that lane. And so they might try fasting, for example, and come to me and go, I've tried fasting, it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, hang on. You might have fasted from a book, but let's fast intuitively. Let's listen to your body. Let's get into feedbacks. And so there's so much of the industry that is designed to make women feel like they're failing the menopause. That's where I sort of counterbalance in the fact that it's not my menopause, it's theirs. So what I think really it doesn't matter. What does matter is that I can empower them with all of these options, and they go, well, I hate that idea. Some people don't want to do exercise. Some people don't want to skip breakfast or do some of the things that can really support them. And I go, that's fine. Let's find something else. So they start week on week, they start to feel this empowerment and this idea that, and also listening to their bodies. The amount, this disconnect that we get at menopause with our hormones, because the perimenopause in particular is just this roller coaster of up and down. As soon as you feel like you might be getting on top of your menopause, bang, your hormones change and everything just drops. And that's why we need this broad toolkit. So you go, oh, okay, that hasn't worked. Or I understand that I shouldn't be fasting at this time in my cycle because for me, it makes me feel dreadful, but that's fine because I can do all these other things.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because we were saying earlier, weren't we? We're not quite there yet, but how do you spot the signs of first becoming perimenopausal?
Such a brilliant question. And the thing is I can't give you the answer. What I can tell you is these are the things that I would absolutely do if I was starting my journey again. And that is from mid-30s onwards, just start to notice, particularly if you've chosen to have children and you're not going to have any more. Look at what your body is telling you. So, for example, are your periods changing? Is your sleep changing? Are you finding your more stress response instead of being able to manage things that you would ordinarily manage? Do you find that certain foods are making you feel like you've got a gluten intolerance? All of these things come to me and go, I can't eat bread and I can't sleep, and you go, okay, these have been signs for, on average, women put up with feeling really unwell, lacking in confidence, anxiety, poor sleep, sugar cravings, weight gain for 5 years. Blaming themselves before they realize, actually, I might be in the perimenopause. So it's about you knowing what your body is doing.
Yeah.
All these apps that are around at the moment that tell you what your period cycles is and how long it is, they're quite useful because you can add in symptoms with that as well. You might notice that you've never really had sleep problems before your period, but actually you're starting to. That's something we need to know about. We need to know about that progesterone phase changes. So really, it's about going, okay, I'm just going to start to really get to know my body because it will be changing from your mid-30s onwards. Certainly by early 40s, most women have got a couple of signs. And it might be something as simple as you've noticed your hangovers are dreadful now and you used to be fine. All of that. If you start to catalogue that, you start to have much more understanding of where you are in the journey.
That's so helpful as well, because I think, because a lot of those symptoms, if you're just looking at them on their own, you're not gonna add up to perimenopause or hormones in any way, because there's so many separate things that could be other reasons for it. You don't notice them necessarily. You
No.
just almost accept them, don't you?
Exactly.
And you know, we're sat here saying before we hit record, saying, "Oh, yeah, I don't think we're in perimenopause," and then you're
And
saying
then
those things. I'm
I'm
like,
like,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
perimenopause.
And that's a good thing. Can we dialogue at the moment around the perimenopause and menopause is awful. People are, and actually the reality is with the right toolkit, there's this real reconnect with your body. It's quite empowering. You start to really reassess what's important to you in terms of not just diet and not just exercise, but actually relationships, you know, alcohol, how you want to present yourself to the world. It can be an incredible journey. It's not easy, but once you get there, you're like, hang on, I might just be the best version of myself I've ever been. And this is what we don't talk about.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so linked to the work that I do as well. Obviously, I'm working from that mindset point of view, but we are working on getting to know your body, listening to your intuition, and doing it from, and obviously, you know, a lot of the people that are coming to me in perimenopause or menopause, we're working with the whole like anxiety, brain fog, that kind of stuff. In menopause, I've seen from the women that I've worked with, your self-esteem and your confidence takes such a hit during this time. And like you said, it can be really powerful when you use menopause or perimenopause as a way to start getting back in contact with your body, in touch with your body from a holistic perspective. It's really powerful, and because I'm in this line of work and I do this kind of work on myself, I think maybe that's why I haven't necessarily gone, oh my god, I'm in perimenopause, because I have been addressing those things, not from an angle of, oh, this is perimenopause, but this is me trying to get back in contact with, you know, myself and do the work on myself to be the best version of myself. So I'm coming at it from that way, but it's all the same thing. It's all linked, isn't it?
We can't disassociate emotional, physical, spiritual things in any aspect of our lives, to be honest. And I think that once we start to realize that, all of a sudden people are like, okay, so I am more anxious, but there is a reason for that. And that compassionate reset and reframing things in your mind, when you start to look at the studies of the changes to the brain, because actually menopause is much more related to brain changes than it is about our hormones and our ovaries and our womb. Nearly all of the major symptoms come from the changes in the brain. So whether that is sleep, whether that is brain fog, your hot flushes, are all triggered through hormone changes in the brain. So anxiety is a really mean one, actually, because women are leaving the workforce. We've had over 1 million women leave the workforce. We have women who are feeling that they can't go for promotions. We've got women who leave their husbands in this phase. Women who have got breakdowns in relationships because they're just blaming themselves for so many things and not realizing. I remember reading this years ago and thinking, I wish I'd known that 15 years ago when I started my menopause, which was way before Davina McCall, and everyone was talking about it. I thought I had Alzheimer's. I went to the doctors. I was offered antidepressants and sleeping tablets. And I did go on HRT. And HRT for me was never the solution. I kind of stayed on it because I didn't know what else to do. And it wasn't until I gave up my career and went, this is ridiculous. This can't be how we have to live. I can't be miserable. I can't dislike my life. I'm in a happy marriage. I've got 2 ace kids. I live in a nice place. I've got amazing friends. I couldn't have been more miserable if I tried. And I thought there's got to be more. And that's when I went back and trained and did all my acupuncture training and my gut health. And it's evolved from that. And all of a sudden I started to do research looking at scientific facts, and the brain's basically the response to stress in the brain fundamentally changes. You are literally unable to manage stress in the same way. Your response to sugar changes. So we have these horrible glucose spikes. So we get cravings. The gut health in menopause is everything and easy to fix. You don't have to buy crazy expensive things. You can literally just look after your gut, having fermented foods. This gut-brain access, this communication between the gut and the brain is fundamental. And when you start to realize that there's a whole bank of things that we need to be doing, whether that might be breath work, whether that might be sugar management, like vagus nerve work on the fight or flight, the parasympathetic, sympathetic, you know, all of these things, when you realize how many brilliant natural ways there are for us to manage the menopause that have science behind them, you kind of go, oh, hang on. Okay. But for me, what I find the hardest is the dialogue is very much still HRT for menopause. And the reality is, over 3/4 of the female population going through the menopause don't take HRT or can't take HRT. And yet, literally, if you went to your GP, they would go antidepressant, sleeping tablets, or HRT, and actually or CBT, which again, it has mixed responses. I'm not there with it, but I know that there's some evidence behind it. Whereas actually, if somebody sat them down and went, this isn't your fault, here's what's happening to you. These are all the science-backed things that you can do. All of a sudden, women would walk out of that medical practice and go, okay, this is a journey. I'm happy to go on the journey because I'm getting the support. And that's where it's missing for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's this stigma around like menopause as well. It's almost like as women, as young, you know, girls, women, we're almost brought up to fear this part of our lives where we're going to go through the menopause. God, poor husbands. You know, it's like it's such a shameful almost thing, isn't it? And then you talk about like what you said, where everything is just women just feel like this is my fault, and actually it's a natural part of a cycle. As women, I'm beginning to realize, and I'm trying to kind of learn as I'm getting to, you know, like appreciate being a woman now. We work on cycles, don't we? Like we are very cycle based, and this is just another bigger part of our life cycle, and I'm really trying to step into it. So I'm 41, so I'm very clearly, whether I know it or not, probably in perimenopause, you know, but I'm trying to step into the menopause with a really positive mindset, which goes against societal programming. And like I said, I've worked with a lot of women in the menopause. I'm seeing a lot of the difficulties of, you know, kind of going through this stage, and I'm trying really hard not to be even kind of swayed by that, because I know how powerful our minds are, and I don't want to go into it fearing the brain fog, fearing the anxiety, you know, all the things that I've seen actually does happen. And it's not about denying it, it's really not, but I'm trying to see it as another stage in my development that actually can be powerful. And I just wondered, for you, talking in the kind of the spiritual side of menopause, I don't know whether you have a view on this, but I see it as stepping into that wisdom part of us. I feel like in times gone by, this is where people would kind of revere this part, because you're now the wise women, you're the people that have the knowledge. Yeah, like I just wondered what your thoughts are on that.
Well, that's very Chinese medicine. And in Chinese medicine, the menopause is called the second spring. It is when the woman goes from her yin phase, that looking after everybody else, that nurturing phase, into this yang phase, this phase of confidence about being herself. In some provinces in China, I read that women don't celebrate their birthdays until around the menopause age. And then they are revered as these life experts, these people that have done it all and are such an important part of society. And yet here, you know, 80% of women still don't go and speak about their menopause symptoms. I know we all feel like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
The majority of women do not tell anybody about their menopause symptoms. The amount of women that come into my clinic, sit down and burst into tears is unbelievable. And they go, it's me, this is happening, and this is happening. And it's this, literally what happens is you are handed back this different body. And we talk about this disconnect. The sense of self fundamentally changes. People are confused because their body doesn't react. Everything that they used to try no longer works anymore. They feel different about relationships. They're unhappy at work, and they're just like, what is this world? Where am I? They're embarrassed to talk about it. They're embarrassed to bring it up at work because they feel like someone's going to think they're incapable of doing their job anymore. So I think there is a massive spiritual part of the menopause, actually. And when I see it as people come in week on week, and I see all of a sudden this emergence, this confidence coming back, and this people saying to me, oh, do you know, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that anymore. And you go, that's it. You've got that yang back, that ability to put yourself in the center of your decision making and go, that is not where the light is for me in my life. These are either people or situations that I know don't make me the best version of myself. And so I've got that confidence now to say no to that. From a Chinese medicine perspective, we talk about the Shen. I don't know if you've heard of this. So the Shen is your spirit, mind, sort of your emotional vitality. And it's what really gives you your joie de vivre, your sparkle. It's your awareness, your personality, sense of purpose, that kind of thing. And when your Shen is really strong, you feel calm, you're connected, you're emotionally balanced. And when it's disturbed, which really happens a lot in menopause, you become anxious, restless, low mood, and disconnected for yourself. So it's this, the Shen, the disturbed Shen is really, 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 really prevalent. I think probably about 80% of my patients will come to me and I will see that their Shen is disturbed because the symptoms are things like overwhelmed, sleep disturbed, hormonally imbalanced. They might feel wired, exhausted but can't go to sleep. And that is where that sort of spiritual connect, because in Chinese medicine, we never disconnect the emotional and the physical. They are absolutely the same. And the same in Chinese medicine, the gut is the first brain. We've always treated gut health as being fundamental. So once you get your sort of head around the idea that there's no one solution to menopause, everybody has to figure out their own, but actually there is so much you can do that isn't expensive, that is science-backed, that's natural, that actually this is about us putting tweaks. So when people come to see me, I sit them down and go, right, walk me through your day. Like, what do you do? What goes in your mouth? What happens in your feet? Where are you sitting? Where are you working? What's the light like? What's your relationship like? Who do you live with? The whole thing. And then we start to put the tweaks into their lives that they then can affect, because you and I both know, if you go and see a nutritionist, and there are some amazing nutritionists out there, I'm not dissing them at all, but you are committing to a fundamentally different way of life. And for most women going through the menopause, that's really overwhelming. You know, whereas if instead I say, okay, so you're getting up in the morning, you're having a coffee and you're having, I don't know, it might be some sourdough toast. And that on paper sounds okay because they're like, well, I'm having my oat milk and that's like, okay. So when you start to then explain to them the role of sugar and cortisol in menopause, which for me are the two things, if I can get their glucose levels steady, their sugar management under wraps, and get their cortisol levels down, there is a waterfall of good habits and health benefits that come from that, without a shadow of a doubt. And these aren't talked about. So in the morning, I say to my patients, just listen to your body, because they go, well, actually, I'm probably not even hungry, but I've always had breakfast.
Yeah.
You know, and you go, okay, so let's start to not, the idea that everyone thinks, well, if I don't eat breakfast, I'm not going to be well, or I'm not going to have energy, is just archaic. We know that breakfast being the most important meal of the day comes from a Kellogg's campaign. It's a breakfast cereal campaign. So lots of my women, I say, why don't we start with a herbal tea, lemon and ginger, something green tea, even better. And then let's see when you get hungry. And most people will come to me and go, I wasn't even hungry till 10. And then I go, okay, let's not, I'm not saying you can't have your toast, but actually, could you swap it out for something that's much more protein and fiber rich? So for example, Greek yogurt, nuts, berries, seeds, blueberries, flaxseed, all of those things, which stop that glucose spike, which stops that cortisol spike. Or even eggs. Eggs are great. If you're not vegan, eggs are great. And also there's lots of plant-based yogurts that people can have. And it's about those slight changes that all of a sudden, when they get to midday or when they get to the time where they're having their lunch, they're not grabbing a sandwich. I'm saying, okay, I'm not saying don't have the sandwich, but can you have a big green salad first? Can you take some really good fruit in? Apples are brilliant. They're full of fiber. Kiwi fruits. There was a really cute study done about kiwi fruits helping you sleep, because basically if you have lots and lots of vitamin C and lots of fiber, it can help support the gland in the brain called the pineal gland that helps us release melatonin, drops the body temperature at night. So there's lots of tips that we can give people without saying to them, you can't do that and you can't do that and you can't do that. And I think that once women get their head around the idea that they can change things without life being miserable, you can still have a drink if you want a drink. You can still have chocolate if you want chocolate. We're too old. Can't follow a diet. I don't want a strict exercise routine. So here's some tips. And they come back and they're like, hang on, this is really working. And now what I've stopped doing is this, that. And they, as you know, women, we are brilliant once we're reconnected to our bodies and we listen. I had one lady this week who is struggling with really bad menopause related migraines, and they're horrific, really bad. And I've been seeing her for about 4 or 5 weeks now, and we are definitely getting somewhere. It's wonderful. And she, because she felt so bad on a night, was having an alcoholic drink a couple of months. And you can understand why, because she fell asleep much easier and it stopped it. And I was like, okay, we need to stop that. And over the course of 4 weeks, we changed her breakfast. She's going for a walk after her evening meal, which we know again stops that glucose spike, but also she's not going on the phone for the first half hour of the day. So we're getting daylight. These aren't revolutionary things. And all of a sudden, within 4 weeks, I mean, first of all, her migraines, she's about 50% less, which is massive, because actually that means 50% less very strong medication she's taking. And then she's also sleeping better. Sleep is healing. She's moving. Movement is healing. She's lost a stone in 4 weeks. That's how much sugar she was having from her alcohol. Her diet's pretty good. Her breakfast wasn't great. A stone in 4 weeks. And she's like, well, she feels $1 million because she's not got an awful headache all the time and vomiting and not being able to drive and not being able to work. She feels great because her clothes are fitting. She's going out. She's like, hang on. It's like, yeah. And when you combine that with acupuncture, we can really get very, very clever. I mean, I do see quite a lot of patients online because there's loads that we can do. There's loads. That's where the functional medicine coaching comes in, which is brilliant, because we just go, right, let's have a look at all of you. Breath work, blue light glasses, all these little things fundamentally change how your body responds. These are science-backed and they work. So for women, they've got this new life ahead of them. Most women, I find, go through a stage in menopause where alcohol just doesn't serve them. The benefits of it are just not great. And because there's some really good non-alcoholic drinks out there now, and because they start to realize that it's not a treat having a glass of wine when you've come in from work, that's where this generation of women, I would probably say 60% of my patients don't drink anymore, or rarely drink. We don't demonize it. We don't need to demonize it because it just doesn't serve them. And there's really good reason for that. The liver doesn't metabolize alcohol very well. Your hormones, estrogen is this beautiful, plumping, supporting, calming hormone. And it's either in a roller coaster or it's very, very low. Or for someone like me in a medical menopause, it's dropped off a cliff. The body just doesn't work at metabolizing sugar and alcohol very well. Just isn't set up to do it anymore. So it's a real toxin in the body. And so we went away last weekend. We went to see a really dear friend of mine in Brighton. And I knew that I would have a couple of glasses of champagne, but it also meant that on the Sunday, I knew it was going to be a write-off. And I'm like, I said to my husband on the Monday, I don't know if I want to write days off anymore, because I've had a couple of glasses of champagne. I'd much rather, my favorite drink is soda water, Angostura bitters, and I put it in a beautiful gin and tonic glass, and even put the lemon wedge around the rim, put the ice in, and that to me tastes exactly the same as a gin and tonic, and I don't get any of the negative effects of alcohol. And I think the society is now moving towards that.
Yeah.
Women being able to make that choice without everyone going, what do you mean you're not drinking? That pressure's a lot. And when you're anxious and you have low self-esteem in menopause, it's really easy to go, oh yeah, I did have a...
Yeah.
when actually it wasn't what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that for myself, the alcohol thing for myself and for people around me who are obviously around our same age. It was I've never been a huge drinker, but I noticed alcohol was just not doing me any favors. And it got to a point where I just thought, like you, like, I don't want drinking alcohol, however like nice it is in the moment and all the things you get from doing that when you're out. It was not worth me losing 1 or 2 days after it. That my priorities completely shifted. And this is a thing that I noticed in myself. For me, alcohol was never a big I don't drink it at home, so it wasn't a hard decision to make. It was easy to have my priority to say, like that's it, no more alcohol for me. So I don't drink alcohol. Very, very rare occasion I will, and it's just one, and then no thanks, I don't drink. If people know that I don't drink, they don't even bother asking me anymore. Like you said, I think people are getting much better at that, and I've done a lot of work on my self-esteem to be able to say no, I'm not drinking, and I don't care what you think about me and the judgments around that. It makes me laugh because I can see that I can do that so clearly in that area of my life, but then if it comes to, say, my eating habits, I know I listened to my body with the alcohol, but with my eating habits, my body is telling me things and I'm not listening because I'm not prioritizing it like I did the alcohol, because it's tougher for me because I like some of the things that I'm eating, or sometimes I don't, but it's my lifestyle. I'm busy. It's the convenience of it. And that's, and it frustrates me. Like, I frustrate myself because I think I know what I'm doing. I've done enough work that I am in tune with my body now, and it's trying to tell me and I'm not listening. And that's really hard. But I love what you've said about just making the simple changes, because we like to make things so complicated for ourselves, don't we? And I think sometimes you just need to have someone just to say, just do this, this, and this to start off with. And like you said, there is such a waterfall effect because we are mind, body, and soul. That's how, all the work that I do, though I'm primarily working with the mind as a hypnotherapist, I'm also always addressing the body and the soul as well, because I know you do one-to-one and it is going to affect the other.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that as well for you, you're at the start of the journey. Knowing this already is so powerful, but also don't demonize it. Right time, right place, I'm such a big, big, big believer in. And I think that if you start to notice the certain foods that you are eating that are making you feel unwell, I can pretty much tell you what they are now, and they're carbohydrates. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the carbs, because carbs are just sugars. The body just metabolizes carbs into sugars. Now, we're busy, aren't we? We just want to grab that quick fix. Or, you're going out and everybody wants to go for a pizza, all these things. But actually, you can still do all of those. You just have to pre-plan a few things. So, do you know about apple cider vinegar?
Oh, I've heard of the benefit.
So, it's this whole thing, isn't it? Nature provides. So we know that apple cider vinegar, and actually any vinegar, to be fair, works. But apple cider vinegar for me is probably the most palatable. If you drink a couple of teaspoons in it in a large glass of water, 20 minutes before you have your evening meal, and most people's diet declines throughout the day. You can have a beautiful breakfast, a beautiful lunch, but dinner, you have your dinner and then you have all the snacks and the treats at the end of the day. So if you have that, what it does is a couple of things. First of all, it literally stuns the gut microbiome that's responsible for metabolizing sugars. So when you eat, the sugars go through the system as opposed to being released into the bloodstream. So that's incredible. The other thing that it does is it inhibits ghrelin, and ghrelin is the hunger hormone released in the brain that says to you, no, you're still hungry. You're still hungry. If you do that, then you are far, far less likely. We talk about if you do that, you eat the food in a particular order, and where possible, that is greenery first. That again helps the gut microbiome, responsible for metabolizing and absorbing all the good stuff. And so you have your greens first, then you have your protein, then you have your carbs, and then go for a 10-minute walk after your evening meal. You can reduce your sugar spikes, which is cortisol. So that's your sleep, that's your cravings, that's your anxiety, by as much as 70%.
Wow.
It's massive, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you might forget. You might be in a restaurant and you think, I just really want that massive bowl of pasta. Have it. But for your starter, have a green salad and put some vinegar on it. And
Genius.
again, you see, we don't have to say no.
No.
You can just go, I've got an ace cheat for this.
Oh my God, I
And
love
that will make a really big difference. And park your car 10 minutes away. Or
Yes.
go get a taxi right outside. It's those kind of little things that people go, I can't believe the difference that's made to my life, Claire. And I'm like, the science is there. It's so clever and so simple.
And this is why we need to be talking about it, isn't
Yes.
it?
And do you know what? Just when you said that 10-minute walk after your evening meal, it just like flashed up in my mind, because honestly, like, I could hear my voice in my mind. The last, I would say, couple of years, I keep on saying to my husband after we've eaten, "Oh, I really feel like I could just go for a walk now." And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is insane. What do I
Yeah.
want to go for? Usually I want to get in my jammies. I want
Yeah.
to get to bed. But I just feel like I need to go for a
So
walk.
you know.
Now, I never do.
No.
So I'm like, oh no, it's cold. It's like, but that is my body's actually
Trying
it
to tell
knows.
you.
It's trying to tell me.
It's exactly that. And actually, when you think about it in really simple terms, instead of the sugar going into your bloodstream, it's going into the muscles to be burnt off with you walking.
Yeah.
Our body always tells us. We just either stop listening or we just don't hear it.
Yeah. That's a huge one.
It's massive. We just don't hear it. And so it's people that are like, "Oh, I just feel so awful every day at 3:00. And I'm like, what did you have for lunch?
Yeah.
That's why you feel awful at 3:00. You know? And so I think the gut is this new frontier of health as well, that we used to think like just digest food and off we trot. But actually what we now know is the link to the gut microbiome and health is absolutely ginormous. So we know that about 80, if not 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. So if you have a poor gut microbiome, and you know you've got a poor gut microbiome because you get bloating, you have fatigue, you have high anxiety, that can be really linked to a poor gut microbiome. It might be that you have really strange bowel habits, that you find that you can't have certain foods, you're sugar craving, you're hungry literally 2 hours after eating. All of these are saying to me, okay, this gut needs sorting. Poor skin, breakdown in skin, as well as another big one in menopause, we get lots of spots. That's the gut. And if we then start to reboot the gut microbiome, and you can do that, sometimes you do need supplementation. For some people, they go that it's so far gone that we need to do that. But I'm not a big fan of people just buying off the internet. I think we need clinically based and clinical trials behind them. Otherwise, people come to me and they've spent 50, 60 pounds on these supplements that are for gut health. And I look on the back and they've got caking agents, bulking agents, sugars. There's just nothing in them. The supplements industry isn't regulated. There's a lot of fun out there. But what we know is that the estrogen and the biome axis, so the estrobiome axis, is massively underexplored. And now that this research coming through, everyone's kind of thinking, hang on a minute. Well, there was a brilliant study done that showed that probably about 70% of mental health illnesses are a gut microbiome dysfunction.
Yeah, I don't doubt
You with
that.
the gut. So as soon as you think, okay, so what does the gut love? The gut loves fresh food. It loves fermented food. It loves lots of different types of food. It doesn't particularly like all the things you would expect, processed food, sugars. It doesn't like heavy fats all the time. So as soon as you start eating in season,
Yeah.
as soon as you start to just eat as many foods as you possibly can, and eating fermented food, so Greek yogurt in the morning or whatever is your first meal of the day, if you put half of kefir in that, which is fermented yogurt, which has got loads of amazing healthy gut bacteria in it, there's your first dose of your gut microbiome boosting. If at lunch you could have kimchi, sauerkraut, those kind of things. Or if you like kefir, you can get kefir. Now you can make kefir yourself really quite easily, but also you can buy it in shops. Just always, always look at the sugar content. Sugar is the devil. Sugar is not our friend.
Yeah.
And actually eat loads more. Eat more protein, eat more fiber, eat bigger portions. Don't get anything fat-free. And as soon as you start to do that and reduce stress, which the walk also does every day, the gut microbiome goes, hang on. I mean, literally within 48 hours, you can make significant improvements in your gut microbiome. It's not, it doesn't take 6 months. I think that when people hear that, they're like, oh, okay. I have women that still come to me who are sat there and they are clearly totally exhausted. Their mood is on the floor. They're thinking about leaving their husbands because they think they're in an unhappy marriage. The doctor has refused to give them HRT. And they're like, I have nowhere to go. This is it. And within a very short period of time, they go, hang on a minute. I actually quite like my husband. My work is actually okay. Because I'm sleeping, my brain fog isn't as bad. Because I've boosted my gut and I'm doing a bit more exercise, hang on a minute, I quite like myself again. You know, and I think these are the messages that aren't getting out there. I work with quite a lot of big corporates. I've just launched a new business called the Rebalance Academy because we have too many women leaving the workforce because of the menopause. And so I work with businesses embedding menopause awareness and talking like I'm talking to you now, but also sort of reasonable adjustments at work, putting in legislation to support businesses. We see a drop in sickness, a minimum of 2 days per person a year. And that's, in some businesses, can be like £500 to £600 per person.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so this is about us going, oh, hang on a minute. Can we all just stop believing all these experts on the telly or on the news that are saying that if you take this special supplement, it's going to work? Or if you do these 5 exercises, your belly fat is going to dissolve. That really, I find that quite offensive, that kind of language. I think that the idea that the belly fat is our fault, and it isn't. And that's because when the body has excess cortisol is really important. It gets us out of bed in the morning. It's incredible. But when we have too much cortisol, which most of us have as women living in a busy world and going through the menopause where the estrogen effect is lower, cortisol rises, the vagus nerve, so that parasympathetic the fight or flight is so prevalent. Our cortisol levels are up here. So the body goes, well, hang on, I need this. My human is in fight or flight. So I'm going to store this because we're going to need it. And so the body stores it in visceral fat. And that is the fat around our organs. And it's the fat that has 4 times the cortisol receptors. So you diet when you have elevated cortisol, you're never going to lose any weight. So that's why women are going, and dieting doesn't work either. And it's like, come back about 3 steps, get weight, forget diet. What we need to do is just change a few things to get your cortisol level down, to get your insulin levels working so that you're not insulin resistant. And insulin resistance is when the cells are so full of sugar, so full of the glucose that's needed, that the spare glucose goes around the bloodstream, and that's a big problem. So that's where fasting can be wonderful, because the cells are depleted of the glucose. And so when you then eat, you can then add the glucose back into the cells, not back into the bloodstream. However, fasting is not about you stopping eating. It's so much more complicated than that. And it might be that your fasting is there is no book. So I've done all the training, all the research, and actually everybody's fasting is different. And actually, if you put your body under loads of stress by fasting for a long period of time,
It's more cortisol, isn't it?
so you're like, No, I think it's about just giving out really sensible, digestible, realistic information that genuinely works, and making women realize there is no quick fix. It's going to take you months to find the toolkit that works for you, but there is absolutely a toolkit.
I love all of this information. Do you know what? I just kept, I couldn't stop thinking when you were talking just then with all of that information, is that this is the kind of stuff that we need to be taught in school, because we do not understand ourselves, as humans, yeah, sure, but then go deeper as women, we do not understand how our bodies work. I saw that when I started digging into my hormone cycle, just, ovulation and all of that, the phases. I'm like, girls should be taught this before they start their periods, because our lives we have to mold our lives to it, and that's not a bad thing. That's a great, it's not like, oh God, well, I have to do this now because I'm, in my menstrual phase. No, it's really, again, it's really empowering, isn't it? And all I kept thinking was, we don't understand our bodies, and if we could just understand our bodies, we'd be able to deal so much better. Because like you said, someone could say you need to fast for this amount of time and do this and this. Yeah, that's great for that one person, but that's not going to work for you. But when you can understand how your body works, the information that you've just given there, you are then much more able to use your intuition to do something that's right for you, and think, right, no, I can't fast that amount of time because at this point my body does this, this and this, and I feel like this, that is so important, isn't it?
And it is. And I would actually even go so far as to say, and the boys need to learn this too, because every man has a mom, a sister, an aunt, a daughter, a cousin who is going through this as well. And men have no idea what to do. They're terrified.
Yeah.
One thing, they say things like, oh, it's the change, and all this language around it that actually they don't even feel comfortable saying. So
No.
when you start to say to men, one of the courses that I run for businesses is a particular module for men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say, look, here's what's happening. And
Yeah.
these are all the amazing things that you can do to support your women in your life, even if that's at work or at home. And the amount of men that are like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I now get it. I can do loads more. That it's
Yeah.
so important. And I think you're right. I think there needs to be so much more education on it. And I think it's coming. I do think it's coming. And I think loads of businesses are trying to do a lot more. And actually, they're going to be forced to, because in 2027, if you have over 250 employees, you have to have a written menopause action plan as a business. And so that's going to change the dialogue, I hope, in corporate. Some will, of course, do it as a tick box exercise, but I think most businesses want to retain female talent, want to make sure women are going for the big promotions, that sickness is reduced. And that's what we know. Training does that. Education does that. But I think we are flooded with this social media ridiculous headlines. I mean, I don't know if you saw it the other day, but there was a really famous blogger actually with a lot of followers, and she had an expert on who literally said that the brain eats itself in menopause.
Oh, God's sake. It's so
And it's
dangerous.
like, what? So I did a post on it, because actually the problem with this is there's a little bit of truth.
Right.
They've got that headline, they've got that alleged expert on. But what happens is that when your estrogen falls, the brain changes how it uses fuel. So estrogen helps neurons pull and burn glucose. Okay. And around perimenopause, we see from brain scans that there's a temporary dip in that glucose metabolism. And that's where the headline comes from. But the brain is, of course, as we all are, adaptive. And so it pivots and uses alternative fuels like ketones to keep you going. But it's not self-cannibalizing. And so what we know is that the brain definitely changes. And yes, the connectivity and the energy metabolism changes. But that is just not the same as degeneration and the brain eating itself. And this got millions
Terrifying.
of hits of women going, right. And then, of course, there's this whole thing about, oh, so women are more stupid then if they're going into menopause because they've got brain fog and their brain is eating itself. So thereby is getting smaller. And it's like, we have to stop this kind of dialogue. And I think once you explain, there's a brilliant book called, I think what's up there, I can't reach it. The Menopause Brain by Dr. Lisa Mosconi. She's brilliant. But again, there are other experts that don't like what she says as well. So I think what we know is that we're all different.
Yeah.
And so instead of you thinking, here is the book that's going to fix my life by XYZ expert, this idea of going and finding someone like myself, and there are loads of people like me. You know, I am not a registered nutritionist. I'm certainly not a personal trainer. And I'm certainly not a dietitian. But what I have is all these basic qualifications that I've amassed over the years that allow me to give really good science-backed advice. And as a functional medicine coach, of course, that's just totally holistic. And the Chinese medicine as well. So you're not coming to somebody who's sitting in one lane. And so you will get a much broader sort of menopause plan put in place than if you go to someone who just offers one service. And I think they should be out there. And for some women, it can be amazing. But for the majority of women who are spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds on an expensive menu plan or on a specific exercise plan, whereas actually the best experts in these fields bring in other experts because they know they don't have all the answers. But I think there are still people in their lane that I think women come to me and go, I tried this program. And, they might have done the ketone diet or they might have done XYZ diet. And they're like, I feel dreadful. I failed. And so I think we need to just be a little bit broader. And that's where this should be grassroots. This should be available on the NHS.
Yes, please.
You
must find, Claire, sometimes, with all that you do for these women and changing their lifestyles like this, do you find that they sometimes get healthier in lots of other aspects? Maybe they had something before the menopause that they managed to get rid of with your treatment. Yeah.
100%. And a lot of
Yeah.
that is based around inflammation.
Yeah. Good old
Inflammation is
inflammation.
such a negative thing. And so when you get sugar levels down, when people exercise more and build muscle mass, when people are sleeping well, when cortisol is reduced, the whole inflammatory response in the body changes. So basically, we see people having less migraines, we see people sleeping better, we see people with gastrointestinal imbalances. Maybe they've been on some, lansoprazole, for example, for antacid for 10, 15 years. They often find that they can go to their GP and talk about changing medication or coming off medication. But a big one is the antidepressants. A lot of women come off antidepressants. Now, I don't get involved in that. That's for them to do with their GP, but they feel able to go and speak to their GP about that. So there is literally a waterfall of health benefits.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just transfixed.
Yeah, I know I am.
Trying to absorb all this.
I need to see Claire immediately. Before, this is making me laugh because before I'm like, no, we're
all right at the moment.
perimenopause. This isn't really relevant to us, but I know we didn't say that, but it is. I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Again, I come from things as just really trying to see everything holistically. So me as a human being, soul, body, physical, mental, spiritual. Yeah. So as much as I can, I like to not attach to labels, whether that's like, menopause, perimenopause anxiety. I'm like, this is what's going on with me. How can I fix it? But like I always say, labels are helpful as humans because it can help focus our consciousness. It can help focus our awareness and give us something to start working towards or from an angle to work towards.
Yeah.
And I just think this is really, really helpful for me because it's just helped me come at it from another point of view. But what I love about doing the work that I do, about doing this podcast where we get to speak to a variety of experts with their wisdom in all different areas, we are all saying the exact same thing. There are very, very few things that people are saying we need to take control of. Something that I hear all the time and that I work with is the nervous system, the cortisol, the parasympathetic, from that, everything really can stem from that. Gut health, massive one, which with that comes the inflammation.
Totally.
And all of that. We've got neurons, that's brain cells in our guts. Like, it's literally, when they say it's a second brain, it really is the second brain. There's, I'm hearing all of this, but it's really helpful to see it through a perimenopausal lens, and it's given me some food for thought, excuse the pun, of just how to kind of come at it from that way, because food has always been a resistance for me. My gut has been a resistance. I've been doing all the other things, but I haven't found anything that's kind of made me think, no, I can do that. That's manageable for me. It just feels too big. Whereas you have come straight in and just gone, well, here, how about just do these few things?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I also know that there will be a waterfall effect from that. So I just think that's going to be so helpful for so many people, Claire. And honestly, you really have made me think maybe I do need to go and see a menopause expert or you. Or I love the fact that you do acupuncture as well, though. I just think that's brilliant, because I'm guessing then you're hearing what's going on with the person, and then you can use their meridians and stuff to kind of, you link that in with what's going on with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chinese medicine is totally holistic, but actually there isn't a protocol in the ear that I use in group acupuncture, which is wonderful. So basically, what I do with my breast cancer patients, because they can't take HRT, and one of the things that we do is I do group acupuncture for women with breast cancer, and we use 5 points in the ear, and these help to reset the vagus nerve. It's just a wonderful protocol, and of course, people can be doing it seated, fully clothed, but it's the community behind it. So basically, they come, we do the acupuncture, 20 minutes of guided meditation with it, and then there's this beautiful peer-to-peer support. So you can do it in big groups as well, which is wonderful. And then in terms of the one-to-ones, there is nothing better. We know acupuncture helps release endorphins. We know that. We've seen someone having acupuncture and they've literally scanned the brain effect. And you and I both know as soon as cortisol comes down, everything else just, if you step away from a stressful situation, take a deep breath, you're there. We have to accept we've got this flooding of the things saying, oh, it's all about estrogen, it's all about progesterone, it's all about testosterone, when actually you forget hormones. And if you just look at cortisol and sugar and simple dietary changes and going for a walk for 10 minutes, you can transform the menopause. But of course, there's not millions of pounds in that for drug companies. That's the reality. Or supplements businesses. That is the absolute reality. But I love acupuncture. I used it all the way through my own cancer diagnosis when I was having chemotherapy, because of course my cortisol levels went through the roof. I used it to reduce the effects of the chemotherapy. And I know that it definitely helped expedite my recovery on so many levels. So for me, I think because I used it on myself and saw the benefits as well, there's just a different connection.
Yeah.
I had to have acupuncture before. I had it because I loved it. But when I was really sick and I knew the benefits that it was giving to me, it just completely transformed my relationship with my love of acupuncture, to be honest, because the difference was ginormous.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. I Claire, like I feel like we could go on talking for ages, and I'm trying to think, like I'm thinking from our audience's perspective now. You've given us so much incredible information, stuff that we can already go ahead and start kind of putting it in place, implement it in our lives. But if I was to say to you, so we've got people listening now who are either perimenopausal or full on in the menopause, and they're thinking, okay, if they could speak to you now, Claire, what are the things that you would tell them, just a few simple things that you would tell them to go forward now that you think are the most important, that are going to help them, or at least kickstart a help for them in their menopause journey?
I think most women don't realize the roller coaster. And I think that there's this, because literally your hormones are doing this. And actually you can have high and low estrogen within an hour. I mean, it's a roller coaster like no other. So I think the idea that you're going to be able to fix this is just not realistic. And so there's an acceptance that your body is going to change, and some of the things that work some of the time will then stop working. It doesn't mean they've stopped working. Often people will come to me, they've used some of the tools and they've stopped using them because they go, it's not working anymore. So I think I would definitely say that. I would say that if you get your stress levels, like absolutely prioritize stress. So the 10-minute walk, breath work, reducing sugar, certainly try not to have anything to eat at least 3 hours before you go to bed. It's not good. Your body's trying to metabolize all this food, the sugar, and you can imagine the energy in the body. And that will make a really big difference. I think that looking and listening to your body, but also writing down. You don't remember. You literally don't remember. And then you've had the spaghetti bolognese and you go, I remember last time it made me feel that. But if you start to make a diary, and it doesn't have to be a negative diary, it's just, I noticed that my sleep was quite bad. So I'm going to pop that on the calendar. And then you go back and you notice that exactly the same time last month, your sleep wasn't great. And then we go, right, where are you in your period? Where are you in your cycle? Okay, so you're the week before your menstrual bleed. So we know that progesterone is rising. So for you, these are your progesterone related symptoms. So what can we do? Well, let's have a look at phytoestrogens. These are foods that mimic the effect of estrogen in the body. Things like flaxseed is a great example. Hydration is really important during that time. Don't go out on a really big night out in that time. So you can start to put some tools in and make you understand that different times of your menstrual cycle create different symptoms. Around ovulation, we tend to be at our best. That's when you put in the big meeting at work, or that's when you have the big challenge. But also accepting that time period in your menstrual bleed, particularly leading up to in the first couple of days, we are our most vulnerable. That's when you get into your cozies, but that's when you eat as much protein and fiber as you can, hydration, really reduce your sugar. They will make like ginormous differences. And then I think it's worth you speaking to other people. I think, find out what's happening with your friends. Everyone's going through it. I think the isolation part of the perimenopause is really difficult.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's them. You feel more teary. The amygdala in the brain just isn't able to deal with stress and emotions as well. And so we often feel, I've had patients that have left their husbands because they thought their marriage was failing, and that are now back with their husbands because we've got their menopause symptoms under control because they really felt that bad. And so it's about recognizing that. And I would also say is steer clear of anybody that is saying to you, this pill is going to do this for you, or do these 5 exercises and it's going to change your life. It's not true. It might be that you can do half a dozen things that might all contribute, but just don't spend money on expensive supplements. Don't believe the hype. Think sugar management, think stress management. If you think and prioritize those 2 things, for me, I think they're the biggest ones.
That's amazing. Thank you
Awesome,
honestly,
thank
Claire.
you.
This has just been so informative, and I've taken way more from this than I thought I was going to,
good.
actually. I
Definitely.
really have. And thank you so much. And I know I'm speaking on behalf of our audience as well. I'm sure they're thanking you too. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and you
Thank
you say it in such a simple, understandable, matter of fact, down to earth, relatable way. And I really appreciate that, because there is, like we said, there's so much information out there, isn't it? And you're overwhelmed already, and then that's even more overwhelming, isn't it? It doesn't help.
So we don't know who to trust.
No.
We don't know who's telling the truth, and the reality is you've just got to find your way. And just give yourself a break. This is the next 50 years potentially of your life. Take your time. It's not a race. Just change one thing. Don't have a coffee in the morning. Have a cup of tea and start your day with a healthy breakfast that's got protein in. And whether that is at 9, 10 or 11 o'clock, it does not matter. Those 2 things, you will go, oh, hang on a minute. I feel better. You can have your coffee, by the way, after you've had your breakfast. We're not
Right.
demonizing it. And some people love coffee, so I don't want to demonize caffeine, but just small changes, big effects.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I love that. Thank you
Yes.
very much. There are definitely some things in there that I'm going to start
Absolutely,
implementing
for
tomorrow.
sure. Yeah.
Well,
I'd love
tonight.
to know how you get on.
Tonight.
I'd love to know how you get on.
No, actually, yeah, we will, and we'll
Yeah.
keep updated. And if anyone else is listening, this is going to go out a little bit, kind of in a few months' time. But let us know, hop into the Facebook group. Like Claire said, community forms a big part of this, and speaking about it, doesn't it? So come into the Facebook group, share your menopause kind of things, the habits that you're changing, and we can share ours as well. And that'd be awesome. Let's do this together. Come on, ladies.
Definitely.
We're women. What's your superpower, everyone?
Yeah.
We love that picture behind you.
Yeah, it's so good. People can find me on Instagram, and I always try and answer all my DMs and stuff as well. So if people want to, it's at Rebalance Menopause, and we can just support them together. And I'll come into that group and try and help and support as well.
Claire, thank you so
Oh,
much. We
thank
will
you.
put all of Claire's information and details in the show notes so you can find her there. And thank you, Claire.
Amazing. I've had such a lovely chat. Thank you, ladies.
Oh,
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.